The link.
You're able to bring it straight to diba to Mocha Uson blog
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
page.
We're
Okay, good, good.
we're
Para daghan.
streaming simultaneously
Okay, that's good.
to
That's good.
MUB. Yeah,
Okay. Not just the group, but the actual
yeah.
page itself. That's good. That's
Actual
good.
page.
Para daghan tao ba? Manay mga yun.
Hmm. I don't know. It's been more than a month that we've been doing it.
Okay, good, good, good.
So
All right. Just send me the link by para I can send it. I mean, I can't post it of course on my because I'm still I'm still
Lagi.
on suspension.
Ay, tama din, no? Yes.
Yeah.
How long is your suspension?
Until the 8th of
Oh, all right. We're good. We're ready.
Okay.
And we're off. Hey, hey. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to Istoryang Futbolero. My name's Ron Poblete. My co-host for Constipation Friday is Orion Perez Dumdum from Singapore. Orion, bye. Kamusta na?
Ox lang bye. I just wanted to ask everyone who is watching, especially those who are based in Singapore, the ones who are based in Singapore, I have an upcoming comedy show this coming the 7th of September at 8
Nice.
p.m. That's at the Esplanade Concert Hall here in Singapore. So it's basically called the Expat Comedy Show. There's several of us expats. There's me, there's Deepak Chandran, Liam McDonald, Artur Akhmetyanov, who's Russian, and then there's another guy, Matt Chalmers, who's Scottish. So yeah, there's five of us basically
Kuyawa ba?
doing
Bye.
an expat comedy show.
For those of you who don't know, si Orion is a part-time comedian, a stand-up comic. Ha? This is how,
Yep.
bay, kano sa man ka mag-record sa imong mga set, bay, and then post it on YouTube or something so we can
I
share
have
it.
a few. I have actually have a few on YouTube already. So
Ah,
from
yeah?
way back, yeah.
Nice. All right, cool. So it's Constipation Friday. So kabalo naman atong mga viewers no that most of the time on a Friday we talk about the stupid constitution that is the 1987 Constitution. Sorry, it's not like we're being unpatriotic here.
We're just being
By
practical. We're just being practical, guys. One thing I can say is that, if you're a country that has certain enemies who are stronger than you, those stronger enemies will try to do economic sanctions on you, right? So they'll say no one should trade with you, parang they'll say no one should do business with you, no one should trade with you, no one should invest in you. So that's what they do. Like Iran, for example, it's like Iran is not able to, or Cuba, they're kaaway sila ng US, di ba? So the US like puts these sanctions on them, and then these countries have a hard time attracting investors to come in and all that.
right.
Well, you don't need that, Philippines, because you've done it to yourself. You, yeah, man. You don't need enemies. Who needs enemies when you've got your own fucking 1987 Constitution to
Shooting
do that to
your
you?
shooting yourself on the foot.
Shooting yourself in the fucking foot, ladies and gentlemen. That is what the Philippine 1987 Constitution is all about. We have basically sabotaged ourselves. That's why we don't have many jobs. That's why we have a lousy system. We have done it to ourselves, thanks to the 1987 Constitution. We cannot blame anyone. We cannot blame the U.S., the Spain, or Japan, or whatever other colonizers. We did this to ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. We did this to ourselves.
I remember taking the civil service exam, and one of the portions of that civil service exam, I couldn't believe though that only 20% passes that exam. Orion, like
Really?
250,000 Filipinos take that civil service exam, and only 20% would pass the exam. And no, not 20%, but 10%, around 25,000 out of 250,000 people. And the last part of that exam is actually about the Constitution, which is crazy. And I think, the one thing that you can probably take from that is the fact that most Filipinos are very ignorant about our Constitution, or they don't really care about it that much. They think it's just, a piece of paper, something that you study in college or in high school, and that's about it. And then you totally forget about it after taking it up as a course or as a class in school. And ngayon, bigla na lang, hindi siguro natin na-realize na kaya natin napapag-usapan ngayong Fridays ang Constitution ay dahil sobrang profound ang effect ng Constitution natin sa ating mga mamamayan. Kaya dapat napaka-importante na malaman natin ang importansya kung bakit natin kailangan baguhin ang ating konstitusyon dahil hindi na angkop sa panahon yung 1987 Constitution natin. Outdated na. Sabi pa nga ni Orion dati, kumbaga naka-Pentium 3 pa lang tayo hanggang ngayon, hindi pa rin natin ina-upgrade. Hindi pa tayo nagsi-systems upgrade daw, sabi ni Orion.
To be honest nga, no, yung 1987 Constitution, the time it was set up, it was already outdated.
Oh.
Because the 1973 Constitution was more upgraded than the 1987 Constitution. So 1973 Constitution, the unamended one, the unamended original, that was already an upgrade over the 1935 Constitution.
Because they adopted the parliamentary system already.
Yeah, nag-parliamentary eh. Okay, so basically in 1981, nagkaroon ng regression ng konti kasi naging semi-presidential or Peruvian style presidential system yung when Marcos lifted martial law, he reverted to a presidential system with a prime minister who is actually a glorified executive secretary.
Oh.
Okay, so that's what we had. No, so we had a system where we had a president who was really, really powerful, and then we just referred to his assistant as prime minister. But it was nothing like a real parliamentary system where the prime minister is the real decision maker and the president is just a ceremonial figure.
Right.
Okay? We didn't have that in 1981. Now, but my point is, even then, so this is the 1935 Constitution, this is the 1973 Constitution, and then when they amended it, it kind of went down a few notches. So it's like here, it went up there, went down here again. And then 1987, we went down back to the 1935 Constitution. In fact, even worse, because when we removed the ability for unlimited term re-elections, basically. So as long as you're good, you should be allowed to be re-elected. When we created the term limits, things went downhill from there, and our party system deteriorated like hell.
And according to some of the experts, and I think si Professor Carlita Carlos said that pretty much the 1987 Constitution is reactionary to martial law. So daming check and balance, even the idea of not having a vice president on the same party as the president is also like a sort of a mechanism that they built into the 1987 Constitution so that the vice president can be adversarial against the president. Hence the current situation that we have right now, that we have like a vice president na wala nang ginawa kundi batikusin ang administrasyon. So that's kind of weird, Orion, no? Kasi that's I don't know, is there another country that you know of that where the vice president is very vocal against the president?
I don't know of any other country. I don't know of any other country like the Philippines where we have set up a lousy system. Now, there's somebody here who's asking, Josco is asking, abogado po ba kayo? No, we're not lawyers, and we don't need to be. In fact, You don't need to be a lawyer to talk about the Constitution, to talk about the systems in place, particularly economics. When we talk about, we in fact are probably even better than many abogados. In fact, many abogados are the worst people to talk about fixing the Constitution because they've memorized the Constitution and they don't want to make any changes whatsoever because they don't want to learn new things. Whereas us, we're just being practical-minded people.
I noticed that, Orion, there are a lot of lawyers who are very resistant in changing the Constitution because I think it's like part of their sort of like their progression as lawyers. No, when they learned it when they were in law school, it's become sort of like a rite of passage, ba, Orion? They put the Constitution on a pedestal to a point where it can do no wrong.
They've made it so sacred, like the Bible, you know.
Yeah.
But the problem is really the training of lawyers is not based on understanding systems, understanding cause and effect. You know, it's not a scientific discipline. It's a memorization discipline. That's what it is, and it's not the best profession when it comes to analyzing what are the flaws of our society. Okay, the best lawyers who might be able to understand this are those who are scientific minded. You know, those who come from an engineering background, and later on took up law, and they're still, you know, pretty much technical people rather than lawyers. They're technical people with a law degree. That's what they are, right? But many people who are just plain lawyers, particularly Pinoy lawyers, they're not the best people to talk about constitutional reform. So don't ask that question again, Josco. That's the wrong question. Abogado ba sila? Because it's absolutely irrelevant. Because there are people who are better than lawyers who can talk, you know, like political scientists, for example. They're better at talking about this topic than lawyers. But many people, for some reason, think that lawyers are the only people who should be talking about parliamentary or presidential or federalism. They think only lawyers should talk about it. That's totally wrong because that's not part of the training of lawyers. The training of lawyers is how to win your case. Ha? Paano ba yung isang guilty na kliyente mo ipapa-inosente mo para manalo sa kaso, para ma-acquit. Yun ang training ng lawyer.
And I think the Constitution basically is really something that people should discuss because, you know, it represents you and your ideals. That's the reason why they wrote the Constitution is because of the people that, what the Constitution is written for. Kaya dapat talagang pag-usapan mo yan. Hindi ka kailangan maging lawyer or hindi ka kailangan maging expert. Dapat maintindihan mo yung Constitution mo dahil dyan lahat pinagbabasihan ng mga batas na pinapasa ng ating ng ating kongreso, ng ating gobyerno. So pag hindi mo naintindihan yung Constitution ay hindi mo rin naintindihan yung mga rights mo, yung mga karapatan pang tao kung hindi mo naintindihan yung Constitution. Ngayon, kaya natin pinapag-usapan yan dahil nga may problema. May problema yung Constitution natin, may mga bagay na hindi natin magawa dahil nga bawal. At hindi na siya, gaya ng sabi ko kanina, Orion, hindi na siya napaglipasan na ng panahon yung ating konstitusyon. Kaya nga ating topic ngayong gabi ay gusto natin pag-usapan yung party list. Bakit ba nagkaroon ng provision sa konstitusyon about having the party list system na integrate sa ating konstitusyon na merong representante ang mga sektor ng ating lipunan sa ating konstitusyon, kaya nagkaroon ng party list. Ang problema naman, ito yung major problem dyan, Orion, correct me if I'm wrong. The problem with the party list system is that they don't necessarily represent the people they don't. They show that they represent or they claim to represent.
It was a really stupid system. It's bati juga. Sus ka puti kang system. Bati juga. Klaro kay mga dili engineer, dili scientist ang gahimo sa sistema. Puro lawyer jud. Lawyer ang gahimo ani. Kanag yung what joy ayo ba? You can really tell that the mindset involved with creating this lousy, fucked up, shitty system the party list system that we have in the Philippines was cooked up by non-technical people. So people who would not be able to construct anything that lasts. These are people who basically kung lang puhunan ng laway lang. So I'm sorry to say, pero dagan lawyer. Maura to.
Can
They
you
would
imagine
not-
like how many congressmen represent a party list in our constitution? Around 200, no? There are 200.
Basically,
no,
it's
sorry,
around like
sorry.
20%.
50 slots, 50 slots, no? Parang 50 slots out of
It's supposed
200
to be
plus
20%.
congressmen.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a 20% kind of thing.
And then what's apparent is that I'm sure we don't have to name names, but there are congressmen nga na kunyari represent, for example, the transport group. Pero pag tiningnan mo yung kanilang profile, these people are not exactly what you would say immersed in the transportation industry. They're like rich, businessmen, mga dato, and then they're able to buy the nomination, no, for that particular party list. They can just tell the group that owns the party list, I'm gonna pay myself in. I'm gonna give you 2 million or 20 million pesos if I become the first nominee for that party list.
It's a really stupid system because it was supposed to be a way of appeasing the mga aktivista, mga tibak, mga the leftists.
Is that
That's
so?
what it was
Is that-
supposed to be.
Ah,
That's what it was
okay.
supposed to be. That's what it was supposed to be. It was because the 1987 the 1986 Constitutional Commission was composed of a lot of people and included a lot of people from the left. So that's and basically, Josco, I need you to understand, okay? You just have to stop thinking that only lawyers are capable of talking about this topic. In fact, a lot of people who are lawyers are not as good as me about this topic, okay? That's the way it works. I'm sorry to say, but lawyers are some of the worst people when it comes to designing a constitution, are the worst people when it comes to designing a political system. You need to have a technical background to understand cause and effect. That's how it works. The Philippines is just way too enamored with lawyers, and that's why we're a failed society. Because it's always lawyer, 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 lawyer.
Alam mo,
Buti
I
sana
can,
kung malalikuan nyo yung lawyer mo na parang technical minded. Hindi eh.
alam mo, I understand where you're coming from, Orion. You're the ire, that permeates in your opinion about this, your comments. Kasi alam mo, we live in a society. Our Philippine society is so attached to mga labels, attached to
To titles. Actually, I get
Titles
insulted.
and-
I get insulted when, there are some cases that I've done talks, right? I've done talks about all this. And then some people come to me and they're being respectful. They say, hey, attorney. They call me attorney thinking that I'm a lawyer because they think. Anyway, I tell them, oh, actually, I'm not a lawyer. And actually, I don't really like lawyers that much. I have respect for a lot of lawyers who are really good. But just because a person is a lawyer doesn't mean that person knows anything about constitutions or political systems and all that stuff. Actually, I to be honest, I actually honestly feel a bit slighted because it just shows how Philippine society is just way too enamored by lawyers. I mean, really, I'd rather be called engineer, honestly, because that's what a real progressive society ends up having. If you have more people who are problem solvers, then we're going to be a better society. Full of lawyers, ay nako. I'm sorry to say, but that's why we have a party list system.
Well, one thing that people, one thing that people notice about the Philippines and Filipinos in general is we're particular with credentials. Pag kunyari, undersecretary ka, USEC, or doktor ka, doc, di ba? Pero sa Amerika, hindi masyado sila ganun na eh. Hindi importante sa kanila yung credential mo.
I mean,
They call you by
I've
your
worked
first
all
name.
my life in a lot of multinational companies. The big bosses, you don't call them Mr. This, Mr. That. They ask you to be called by their first name.
Right. Mm-hmm.
First name. I mean, they don't care what's their rank, And even European companies, you'd think that a European company would be more, hierarchical. No, Both American and European companies are very, very like very egalitarian nga eh. Basically,
Yeah.
first name basis. First name
Even
basis.
the modern business setup, like the Googles and the Facebooks of the world, they don't really pay attention to hierarchy, diba? They take down walls nga eh. Like the general, the manager or the president doesn't have like a separate office. The Facebook, I think, it's an open space. You see Mark Zuckerberg everywhere. But
where I work, for example, it's an open space concept, and then the big boss just works in a cubicle similar to mine. Like I mean, it's very egalitarian, basically. I mean, especially IT companies are like that, especially.
The reason why we're bringing this up, and I know it's we digress a little bit, but kasi alam nyo, yung mga nangyayari kasi, lalong-lalo na yung mga polisiya ng ating gobyerno at saka yung mga, including the Constitution, are built by men who are hindi sila infallible, kumbaga. Marami silang mga shortcomings. And to give you an example, kagaya nung CONCOM nga na gumawa ng draft, yung federal draft na pinopropose kay Presidente. Napag-usapan namin ito ni Orion matagal na. Ang isa naming napansin doon, puro karamihan doon sa nag-propose ng draft na yun, mga abogado. At mga kilalang abogado, mga former justice, isa dating Supreme Court Justice pa, Supreme Court Justice Puno. Ang nag-head nung committee na yun at nung yung CONCOM na tinatawag natin para mabuo yung federal draft na hinihingi ni Presidente Duterte. Pero anong nangyari? It fell flat.
Substandard. Medyo substandard ang kalabasan kasi puro lawyers coming from a law perspective.
Lawyer's perspective.
Tapos kukunti lang yung political scientist, iilan lang sila doon, political scientist. Iilan lang doon yung economics experts. Yung parang gano'n, kukunti lang yung technical-minded people. Tapos, although there were also good lawyers there na nag-side doon sa technocrats, no? But mas marami pa rin yung mga traditional Pinoy lawyer. And yung kanilang pinanggalingan, talagang yung kanilang background, medyo limited masyado. And so wala talaga. It would have been a different situation if you had more medyo mas scientific pa na tao, scientists, engineers, architects, ganong tipo, yung ganong klaseng mindset of how to build things properly in a logical way, in a sound structural way. Yung approach nila would be much more technical and the end result would be way, way, way better. There would be a lot of research done. Hindi lang yung, feeling ko kasi ganito, tingin ko kasi ganito. Hindi. Ano yung research? Tingnan natin ano lumalabas sa rest of the world. In fact, like right now in engineering, in science, in architecture, it's always about knowing what is happening in the rest of the world. So there's going to be new technologies that come out, new techniques. So people who are abreast with the information, with the latest information, the latest knowledge, they'll be able to come up with with the best practices. Ang nangyari, yun nga, yung mga lawyer, usually, they're coming from, yung napag-aralan ko from the past. Ganon. So, they come from that background na looking back, hindi yung looking forward, how to make things better. So, wala talaga. It's really, pangit talaga ang kalabasan. So, parang sayang it's mas maganda pa nga yung draft na ginawa nung panahon ni Gloria Macapagal Arroyo na yung type of federalism niya, federal parliamentary plus tanggal pa yung mga 60-40 and all that. So I mean, what I'm saying is yung kalabasan nung draft na yon, ang ganda-ganda. Bakit? Kasi balansado. Hindi puro parang sobra daming lawyer tapos kukunti lang yung mga technical. Hindi Doon sa grupong yon, yung 2005 na CONCOM nung time ni President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, that was like X number of mga technical people, X number of lawyers, X number of political scientists, etc., economists, etc. So it was kind of well represented yung mga iba't ibang mga sectors. Dito, medyo nangyari, parang 80%, 90% lawyers So, medyo ganun ang nangyari. Ang kalabasan,
Grabe
ganun
nga eh.
kaganda.
Medyo
Diba?
mas masaklap ngayon nangyari noon kasi nung nagbotohan na sila. At there were two options to go for the PDP Laban proposal, which is a federal parliamentary system and a presidential federal form of government. And nanalo ang federal presidential by a single vote.
Yun nga eh. Ganun lang. And it was based on kasi sa tingin ko, hindi based on the research. Hindi sila nagsasabi ng based on the research of what works better. Hindi ganun eh. Puro sila sa tingin ko ang gusto kasi yata ng mga Pilipino ganito. Parang binibase ninyo sa mga kagustuhan lang. Dapat based on what works best. That's how it should be.
Sabi ni Lorenzo Descador, aside from political scientists, kulang din ata ng mga economists and business people. Yung CONCOM ni
There was
Duterte, if I'm
only
not mistaken.
the economist and business person. That was only one person nga eh. Si Art Aguilar. He was the one and only person who was like parang a business economist technocrat. He was the only person who represented both the economics and business side of things. Isang tao lang.
Kaya nga ideally, napag-usapan natin ito dati, Orion eh. Ideally, what they could have done is open this up to the public, no? Alam mo, meron naman tayong we have the technology to do that. If they did it live, like all the sessions, the debates, in talking about the proposed draft, kung nilabas nila yung sa social media tapos napanood ng mga tao, di nagkaroon ng it would have piqued the interest.
Crowdsourcing pa.
May konting crowdsourcing and what was missing there that we realized also when we were discussing this during the DILG sessions when the task was passed to the DILG to sort of like review the CONCOM draft and then tweak it a little bit so that the president can be more agreeable to it. Ang isang napansin namin at na-realize natin ay hindi ko alam kung bakit naging mas insular yung CONCOM eh. Naging parang kami-kami lang, hindi man lang nila kinausap yung mga tao ng ahensya, yung executive branch and actually get their and consult with them regarding the feasibility of some of the proposals that they included in the proposed draft. Yun ang kulang eh kasi ito na eh parang nangyari diyan, natapos yung CONCOM draft, kinuha ng DILG, nagkaroon ng IATF for itong ating federalism and yung pagbabago ng konstitusyon, doon pa lang kinausap yung mga ahensya. Tapos yung pala sobrang merong built-in merong maraming mga sa ahensya na hindi naiintindihan yung proposal at natakot dahil baka siyempre mawawalan sila ng trabaho. Ano bang mangyayari? Kunya, for example, like the DILG as an agency, what will happen to the DILG if we became a federal form of government? Will it dissolve into something smaller? Kasi, diba, may mga ganong klaseng mga questions, and if the CONCOM consulted with the agencies, they would have, written down all these concerns. And hindi sana magkakaroon ng ganun kalaking resistance coming from the executive department. And if you remember, Orion, ang naging contention talaga na malaki was coming from the economic cluster of the president.
The economic cluster, and it's understandable nga why, because I mean unlike for example the GMA draft of 2005, which yung version ng kanilang shift to federalism was very gradualist. So yung sistema nung draft nung kay President GMA was such that pag yun yung draft sana na binigay doon kay pinakita doon sa economic cluster natin ngayon, sina Dominguez, Pernia, etc. They would be amenable to it kasi hindi siya biglaan. Pero ang problema nung 2018 CONCOM draft, biglaan siya eh. biglaan
Oo.
yung parang yung shift siya agad. Oh, federal na tayo ha. Parang gano'n. Parang,
Tapos,
ha?
me-
Parang
Awan ko
big
kung
bang yung dating.
hindi ko alam kung nagpapalakas sila kay Presidente, parang ginawan pa nila ng transition government. Tapos si Presidente yung mag-head. Lalong nagalit si Presidente. Sabi niyo, wag niyo ako isasali dyan. Kung if we're gonna adopt that, hindi na niyo ako dapat isama dyan. I'm gonna step back and then have someone be elected as the new president for that federal form of government. Pero hindi sa kanila parang haphazard yung kanilang approach na sabi ko nga, Orion, 'di ba, yung transition aspect niyan hindi masyado na plancha. Hindi nila napag-usapan.
Walang ano.
It should take siguro 5 years yung transition because agencies, of course, they're like big ships, 'di ba? It takes time for them to actually turn.
Hindi ka makaka-turn eh. Hindi ka makaka-turn ng ganyan-ganyan. Diba? So, konti-konti yan. Diba? So, wala
Kaya nga eh. So, it was bound to fail in a way because of the fact that it wasn't, yun na lang. Yun ang pinaka-point dun. Kulang sa consultation. They could have spent that time before they passed the draft. Nagbigay dapat sila ng oras sa pag-consult sa mga ahensya para makuha nila yung mga points and then debate on it, talk about it, tapos adjust to what the realities are. But they didn't do that.
One of the things that probably should have been done, for example, would have been not getting too many lawyers, but then getting other people who've had executive experience in the past, like former cabinet secretaries or something like NEDA, ex-NEDA people, like the late Sec Gary should have been there. Something, it's one of the people who should have been there. He would have really made a great commissioner and probably talked a lot of sense into these people. Pero wala eh. So medyo unfortunately pagkukulang yan. So may nagtatanong dito si John David, nagtatanong siya, bakit hindi natuloy ang constitutional reform noon kay GMA? Paano matutuloy eh? Wala pa masyadong SOCMED nung time na yon. Ang meron lang dati is Pinoy mass media. And Pinoy mass media is oligarch owned and controlled. Tapos ayaw nila ng mga reforma. So puro na lang sila, ay tsa-tsa na naman yan, term extension. GMA wants to extend their term. Puro ganyan yung pambe-brainwash nila. So, yeah, 'di ba? Parang nagkaroon ng negative yung mga tao. Masama tsa-tsa.
Sabi nga nila, panahon pa daw ni Ramos nga yung pagbalahura ng mga
Oo, pinabalahura nila.
Kasi nag-propose na nga si Ramos kasi he understood that the 1987 Constitution was they really left it to be amended or to be changed over time. Hindi pa siya final kumbaga.
Hindi naman siya final eh. Yeah.
Tapos
and by the way, during the time, the part of the reason why President Ramos actually felt the need to make that change was because on the first year of President Ramos's presidency, bumisita si Lee Kuan Yew noong 1992. Okay? 1992 pumasok si Lee Kuan Yew sa Pilipinas. He gave a talk to the Philippine Business Conference. And that's the speech where he talked about yung you need more discipline than democracy. Yung ganyan. But that's not the only thing that Lee Kuan Yew talked about. Lee Kuan Yew in 1992 already talked about the problems of the 1987 Constitution and our 60-40 and our anti-foreign direct investment restrictions and our use of the presidential system. As early as that time, Lee Kuan Yew already talked about it. So, it was already clear that something was wrong with the 1987 Constitution. Tapos sasabihin ng mga iba yan, sinalmonsod, ay wag natin baguhin. Ang 1935 Constitution nga, 5 years old pa lang siya, na-amyendahan na siya eh. Look at 1935, nagkaroon ng bagong constitution, yung Constitution ng Pilipinas. And then 1940, nagkaroon ng mga changes. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, doon pa lang nagkaroon na ng pagbabago, tapos itong 1987 Constitution na to, until today, hindi pa rin nababago kahit konti, di ba? Grabe talaga. Wala man lang kahit konting upgrade, wala eh.
Ryan, got me thinking yung sinabi mo kanina about how the party list system idea came about, na may kinalaman pala yung mga ano doon, yung mga
tibak,
leftist,
mga leftist.
mga tibak talaga. As
Yes.
in, ano yan?
You know why I know
That's a
that?
fact.
I know that as a fact because I've been able to speak with justice of the Court of Appeals before, Regalado Maambong. Okay, he's my fellow Cebuano. I met him in 2010 when I gave a talk to the Rotary Club in near Tomas Morato area sa may basta Quezon City. There's a Rotary Club there that I knew someone who was able to get his dad to invite me into their Rotary Club, and I gave a talk about the need for constitutional reform. And in that club, in that group, was Justice Regalado Maambong. And he told me that specifically that he called it, kana gyud silang mga leftist from UP. Sus sila gyud nakaguba sa tanan. Bisaya man siya, he's Cebuano. And he said, Orion, maayo to imong speech dong. Kanang when I was there, no, he was speaking to me in Cebuano, but he was saying, that thing became a travesty because of so many of those leftists from UP. Sabi niya, they were the ones who inserted all kinds of bullshit talaga, mga things that were really stupid. Like yun, the thing that later became the party list was because of them. That was because of them. That was parang
Was that even based on anything, Orion? Was there a model where they got that idea, come up with a party list system, and insert it in our constitution?
There is in Europe, the parliamentary systems in Europe, they are based on proportional representation. Okay, so what they were trying to do was to do a hybrid of the system, and then they came up with parang they tweaked it in a way that it turned into a monstrosity, because in Europe, the parliamentary system there, of course, with their proportional representation, is for real mainstream parties, right? But in the Philippines, when they created this, they said, no, we will not allow real parties to join in this particular sector. This will be only for the marginalized sectors only, not for the mainstream political parties. So that by itself was already a departure from the original way that a proportional representation system works. So the European system uses real parties to join in the election for that particular group, no, for the proportional representation part. But in the Philippines, they said no real parties, only marginalized groups. And what do you mean by marginalized groups? Dapat mga so-called pagsasaka, fisher, mangingisda, mga ganyan, supposedly. But, at the end of the day, you started having all kinds of groups sprouting out. Act teachers, ano pa yan, in a real system, you should not have that anymore. Let the political parties do this.
Okay, kung proportional representation, like kung i-base natin sa UK, and then you have the Labour Party. Basically, the Labour Party will cover all the magsasaka, the mga mekaniko, and everyone who's part of the labor sector, di ba? Tama ba, Orion?
Yes.
It shouldn't be specific to a particular sector lang.
Bakit?
So ang take ko diyan, correct. Tell me if I'm way off base. Ginawa yan, nasingit ng kaliwayan dahil yung the way they have set up their front organizations is basically that way, di ba? Mga representante na magsasaka, representante na mga teacher.
Yun na yun. Exactly.
So itong party list talaga, brainchild talaga to ng mga kaliwa.
Ang kaliwa talaga yan. Kaliwa talaga yan.
So hindi tayo dapat magtaka kung bakit ang Makabayan Block ay parang na Trojan horse talaga tayo, Rayo, no?
Na Trojan horse talaga tayo ng mga putangin ng komunista mga yan.
So ngayon, hirap na hirap tayong baguhin yan.
Nagoyo tayo ng mga NPA.
Kaya ayaw nila na magkaroon ng constitutional reform
Yun,
dahil
ayaw nila.
kahit na yung lang simpleng mga bagay kaya economic reforms for example, ayaw nilang masimulan. Kasi pag nasimulan baka mag-snowball at mapansin, itong party list system na to walang kwenta pala.
Tatanggalin yan. Oo, tatanggalin yan. Oo, mawawala sila. Feeling nila na mawawala sila.
'Di ba? Grabe no, nakakainis no. Grabe 40 years na syempre tagal 1987, 2021 na tayo ngayon. Medyo maraming na nakapansin diyan pero syempre ang tao, ang publiko natin, hindi naman sila ganoon ka well versed sa konstitusyon no, gaya ng sabi natin sa umpisa. Hindi naman ganoon ka tindi yung interest ng tao kung ano yung about our constitution. If you ask a regular Joe on the street, what do you know about the Constitution? It's either they don't know and they don't care. Those are the two reactions you will get from the regular Juan or regular Inday when you talk about the Constitution. And you know how it is, Orion, diba? And I think it's you can also sort of like relate to that saying, evil men. Ano yung kasabihan dyan, Orion? Evil men continue what evil men continue their evil ways because good men don't speak up or don't do anything about it. That's why this monstrosity na sinasabi mong party list tsaka yung problema na inherent sa ating 1987 Constitution hindi nababago dahil karamihan sa ating mga Pilipino ay walang pakailam. Tapos doon nagta-thrive itong mga walang hiya na nagtitake advantage sa loopholes ng 1987 Constitution. What do you think, Orion?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. No, if people actually cared more about having a better country and looked at the Constitution as one of the reasons why we have the systems that we have, it becomes clear that the Constitution is the culprit for why we have the kinds of systems we have. I mean, like I was saying earlier, diba? When you opened the show, I was saying that you have these countries like Cuba and Iran na hindi sila nakakapag-trade or nakakapag-business with other countries kasi nga na trade embargo sila, nagkaroon sila ng economic sanctions placed by the US usually, Huwag kayong makipag-trade sa kanya, masasamang tao yan. So, walang nakikipag-trade sa kanila. Tayo, sa Pilipinas, parang walang nakiki-invest sa atin, hindi dahil sa may nag-ban sa atin na, wag kayong mag-business sa Pilipinas, ganyan. Hindi. Tayo ang nagsabi, huwag kayong mag-invest sa amin. Huwag kayong pumunta rito. Di namin kailangan ng mga trabaho nyo. O ayan, ang nangyari, dahil walang trabaho sa Pilipinas, dagsaan ng mga OFW at saka mga migrants. Ilan ba yung mga gustong umalis ng Pilipinas, maging Canadian, maging Australiano, di ba? Dami-daming umaalis. Bakit? Walang trabaho eh. Bakit walang trabaho? 60-40 kasi linagyan natin ng mga anti-foreign investors na restrictions eh. Ayan.
And usually kasi yung constitution natin it's the starting point for a better life, diba? That's where it's a promise. It's a promise made by our founders na this is what we want as a society. We want progress. And if that stops to become the case, then we should revisit the reasons why we wrote that constitution, and we shouldn't be hesitant in changing it. So that's what I don't understand, Orion, and it's been 30 plus years and then still meron pa ring pumipigil at ginagawan kagad ng mali siya yung pagbabago ng constitution. Sa tingin yun ang pinaka-effective way to stop the support for people to do so. Pero alam mo, Orion, kung si presidente sinabi niya, baguhin natin yan, yung mga tao hindi sa tingin ko hindi sila tatanggi or they'll just go with it. Kasi first of all, they don't really understand it that much, and at the same time, if the president says this is good for us, they'll just follow suit, di ba?
Actually, that's true.
Sana nga yun na nangyari. Kasi yung presidente natin ayaw niyang
maging diktador.
Nagsobra naman yung Ngayon, Orion, finally, yung dito natin makikita, no, where we've been talking about the party list and the deficiencies of a party list. Deficiencies, no, parang yung COA eh. Yung pati yung ano rin, yung yung parties talaga natin, political parties natin need a little revamp. Kailangan din natin maayos yan kasi kitang-kita mo naman na yung sariling administrasyon na napakalakas ng support base ay sila rin ay hindi nagkakaintindihan. Dahil walang guiding light na tinatawag Orion, no, so to speak, na this is this is where we go, this is where the party, this is what the party stands for. So everyone would fall in line in following whatever the party wants to do or what they believe in. Pero kita mo naman, Orion, like the PDP laban ngayon, medyo yung kahit na yung anak ng founder, parang there's something missing there, no? And if you look at all the different parties that we have here in the Philippines, wala talaga silang wala silang character or something that brands them to be a representative of, say, a certain huge sector in society. Or hindi man lang natin matawag, ito conservative. Yan sila labor. Yan sila kahit na itong mga komunista ayaw nilang i-present yung kanilang sarili as communist.
Not them daw sila, not them. National Democrats. Ulol, alam namin kung ano yun. Pangina nyo. Para kayong Nazi. Hindi kayo fascista pero National Socialist. Parang gano'n ang mga not them. Yung mga not them, yung mga anak bayan, yung mga bayad muna.
Bakit ba sila nahihiya na tawagin ng sarili nilang komunista? Di ba, bakit ba?
Ang bantot kasi pakinggan eh. Ang bantot pakinggan ng komunismo eh. Puta, alam
na kasi.
Alam ng lahat, palpak eh. Alam naman ng lahat, palpak eh. Ha?
Pero pa rin sila, no? Nagpapanggap pa rin sila. Tinatawag nilang sarili nila na National Democratic Front. Hindi naman sila democratic. Tapos meron pa silang mga front organizations na naiinis or nagrereklamo na red tag sila. Bakit ba sila ayaw pa red tag? Talaga naman silang pula.
Kaya nga eh. Pula naman talaga sila. Hindi, ito pa. Ayaw nila pa red tag. Pero yung mga picture nila sa likod, may mga flag ng communist flag, yung hammer and sickle. Hammer and sickle. Puta, may iba dyan, ang yayapang. Bakit kami rin-red tag? Tapos yung mga libro sa likod, Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, pa dyan, Mao Zedong.
Yung community pantry, di ba? Yung community pantry nung sino to, yung anong pangalan ng babae na yun, na biglang nawala sa
Patricia noon.
Oo, biglang pagkatapos na nakapaglikom ng kwarta, ay nawala bigla dahil naka-raise funds na sila, pero yung kainitan nung kasagsagan nung community pantry, kita mo yung mga leaflets pa silang dinidistribute, tapos mga Marxist na
mga quotes na mga from each according to ability, to each according to need. Tangina nyo.
Alabo talaga.
Bakit ayaw nilang gumamit ng mga Deng Xiaoping na quotes, yung sa 1980s China, yung the new China under Deng Xiaoping, which is the rich China, where yung mga quotes niya are to be rich, to become rich, 致富光荣, to become rich is glorious. Would you hear that from a normal communist? No, you'll hear that from Deng Xiaoping, because Deng Xiaoping doesn't care if the cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice, that's a good cat. 不管黑猫白猫，这老耗子就是好猫。It doesn't matter if the cat is black or white. If it catches mice, that's a good cat.
Well, at least we know that they have something in common with the the ones who framed the 1987 Constitution. They seem to be immovable objects. Parang sa kanila parang ang hirap sa kanila to adapt to new thinking, kumbaga, na wala na yan, hindi na uubra talaga yung communism na yan. Meron na tayong kumbaga nagkaroon na siya ng test, kung may may test case na tayo dyan sa former Soviet Union. Kita mo naman
Actually
nangyari sa Vietnam.
Ito lang, Ito pa lang sa panahon pa lang yung namatay si Joseph Stalin, panahon pa lang ni Khrushchev, alam na nila na palpak ang komunismo. Kaya
Di,
slowly nag-open up na nga sila eh. Nag-open up na nga sila nung time na kaya in fact Khrushchev actually he went through a massive anti-Joseph Stalin campaign. De-Stalinization. Talagang masama si Stalin. Ginagawa niya, masama yan. Puta, dami pinatay. Ganyan. Tapos, nag-open, actually, that was the point na nag-open up sila. Kaya nga yung mga kanta ng mga Beatles, pumapasok sa, sa USSR eh. So, kasi they were already parang seeing na palpak pala itong Tapos yung Vietnam, nanalo sila sa Vietnam 1975, di ba? Yung sila yung nandyan na. Doon pa lang 1978 pa lang nakikita nila, ay naku, palpak pala tong komunismo natin. So, they were slowly already moving towards capitalism and then they formalized it in 1986 in Vietnam. Yung Doi Moi reforms na ginawa nila. And in those reforms, doon sila nag full-blown, maging bukas na tayo sa mga investors. Kaya ngayon, naunahan na tayo sa GDP per capita. Natalo na tayo ng Vietnam just last December 2020. Doon tayo na surpass tayo ng Vietnam in terms of GDP per capita. Bakit? Kasi ang Vietnam bukas na bukas. Grabe.
napakasakit, Kuya Eddie.
Napakasakit. Maiiwanan na naman tayo nito. Siya talaga.
Lalong-lalo na sa panahon ngayon, kailangan natin ng mga reforma dahil napakabigat ng ating hinaharap ngayon na problema dahil sa pandemya. May 'di ba, lahat ng ginagawa ng gobyerno ngayon is to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 and for deaths to be for deaths to be minimal. Pero siyempre ang isang aspect ng ating ginagawa ngayon pati ng gobyerno is they have to look at it also in the near future, yung mga prospects natin. How are we going to bounce back in terms of our economy? And kita mo nga, Orion, ngayon na ang gobyerno naghahanap ng other source of revenue. Pati mga influencer, pinag-iinitan na ng BIR.
Ay, nako. Kaya sina Jamil, kawawa naman.
Kakatawa talaga. Sabi ko, ay nako. Naghahanap ng source of revenue dahil nga marami tayong paggagastusan ngayon at maraming sinusuporta ang gobyerno. Maraming mga mahihirap na kailangan pakainin sa panahon ng pandemya. Lalong-lalo na puro lockdown lang yung ating solutions at this point. Dahil inaantay natin yung nadumami yung nabakunahan. At hindi lang yung problema, Orion. Siyempre yung mga nagsimula ng problema na dahil sa ayaw nilang palitan yung konstitusyon, ay sila rin yung mga nagsasalita ngayon, nagpapagulo ng sitwasyon dahil kung ano-ano mga pinagsasabi sa media para lang siraan ang gobyerno. Kaya ito talagang dikit-dikit tong mga problema natin, itong sitwasyon natin, Orion, we can identify these groups that are preventing us from having true reforms. Have you heard anything about the Senate tackling?
Wala pa eh.
Wala pa, no? Hindi pa umaabot sa Senado yung RBH2.
Wala pa akong narinig eh. Ay, ilagay mo nga yung Ron, yung kay John David, yung in-check yung sinabi niya.
John
Mayo,
David.
Yung mo, may Chinese dyan.
Mabasa mo yan?
Yeah, mabasa ko yan.
Ano sa
没有联邦制，议会制和开放的外国直接投资就不会有新的菲律宾。Kung walang federalism, kung walang parliamentary system at walang open to FDI, hindi tayo magkakaroon ng bagong Pilipinas. Yun yung sabihin yan.
Galing Galing mo talaga, Orion. Isa kang alamat. Kaya mong magbasa ng Chinese.
Galing lang ako yung Chinese school dati. Tapos nag-China rin ako.
Ito, Mandarin ba yan? Yung yan?
Mandarin
yung
yan.
Mandarin. Lupit ni John David sabi ni Dominic Solpico, sabi ni John Forbes ng AmCham, usapan daw sa Senado na ilagay yung 60/40 sa Public Service Act. May balita rin na panatilihing public utility ang telco. Ay, nako. Nagpasa pa sila ng Public
Para
Service
bang yun nga, the whole point of the Public Service Act was to remove some of the traditionally parang tinatawag na public service away from public services. That's the whole point eh. So the whole point of the Public Service Act was to exempt certain things like telco and other crucial industries that we need that require foreign direct investors to come in, na itatanggal doon sa 60/40. Eh, kung ilalagay nila, kung isasama nila yun sa, public service pa rin yan. Ibig sabihin, wala, hindi natin talaga hindi natin mabubukas yung mga industries na yan doon sa foreign investors na kinakailangan natin. So, ito, tama si Antonio Vargas Jr. Baka mamaya niyan, Cambodia at Laos, mangungusan tayo. Talagang mangyayari yan. That will happen. Kung hindi talaga natin mabaguhin ang sistema ng Pilipinas, mauunahan talaga tayo. Naungusan na nga tayo ng Thailand dati, ng lahat eh. Puta kagis.
Si John David, parang tinitest ka lang pala Orion eh. Google Translate lang pala na yun. Ayos.
No, kaya ko rin alam yun kasi yung mga yan, meron akong dating speech na ginawa nung Chinese New Year. Nagsabi rin ako ng ganyan dati. Ng liang puncture, yan, yung mga ihui zhi, kaifang de, wai guo zhi jie. Sinabi ko na yun dati sa isa kong speech na nung Chinese New Year na sana naman ang Pilipinas magkakaroon ng ganito. Chinese ko muna, tapos maya-maya nagtagalog ako. Kaya ako nalala yan.
Sabi ni Effers Diona, kaya kailangan talaga lahat ng nasa 3PA package yan, foundational and systemic reforms yan. Yan exactly. Dapat ang unahin bago yung mga specific policy reforms.
Exactly.
Actually, Orion, sabi nga nila, Occam's razor, di ba? The simplest solution, explanation is usually the right one. Sabi nga ni di ba ni Professor Clarita, ni Professor Carlos, dapat nga yung ating constitution dapat mas simplified pa eh.
Simplified dapat, short and sweet.
Doon
if we could just go back to the original Malolos Constitution, I think things would be a lot better. That would be the best. Talagang
balik sa Malolos Constitution.
Balik sa Malolos tayo. Yun, parliamentary yun. Tapos open to FDI pa yon.
Ito ang sakit ng Pinoy ko, Orion, ay balik natin sa ating sa umpisa ng ating discussion dito. Dahil mahilig tayo sa credentials, hindi ka na magtataka kung bakit yung mga abogado ng CONCOM, pati itong mga framers ng 1987 Constitution gusto lang protektan, i-preserve kasi lahat ito para sa kanilang legacy. Ito lahat sa kanila parang, paano ako matatandaan ng tao? Puro na lang pabida kasi nangyayari sa atin paminsan Tapos napaka-importante kasi na na mataas ang tingin sa kanila ng mga tao. It's all about their credentials Hindi nila iniisip kung ano talaga yung common good na tinatawag
what works, how to make things work. Hindi nila
exactly. Para sa kanila kasi gawa namin yan 'di ba? Parang kumbaga natatakan yung mga kagaya ni Davide, yung mga sila Monsod, wag niyo galawin yan. Kami gumawa niyan. It's the perfect constitution. Fried chicken na lang yung umiiral dyan Pati yung mga nasa CONCOM, kaya ayaw nilang to be bold and to take on the challenge of turning it into a parliamentary form of government dahil hindi yun sa kanila Parang siguro mas gusto nila sila yung bida. Yun ang problema. kung isi-simplify natin ang ating sitwasyon ngayon na Orion, talagang yun ang ating kalaban talaga dito sa reforma. Maraming tao na gustong either hindi sila sangayon sa reforma dahil hindi sila kasama dun sa nag-isip ng reforma or ayaw nilang baguhin yung mga nagawa na nila at kung saan sila nakikinabang. Lahat yan pang sariling puro pang sarili lang lahat ang iniisip yun ang masaklap dyan. Huwag ka sana ma-depress Orion at hindi ka na talaga bumalik sa Pilipinas. Pero feeling ko naman sa tingin ko lang sana merong ano lang yun sabi ko ewan ko ang ano ko lang to Ryan, ang na-foresee ko in the future is that the old farts will eventually retire.
They'll die
And
out.
what we will have left are our, diba? Our contemporaries will be left, manning the fort, and then probably changes will happen because kahit paano it's a generational thing.
That's why we
Karamihan
have to. That's why, guys, ladies and gentlemen, all of you listening, we have to make sure that we talagang propagate the knowledge about constitutional reform, what's wrong with the 87th Constitution, why we need a federal parliamentary system, why we need to be open to foreign direct investors. Yung mga yan, kung hindi natin ma-change yung mind ng mga matatanda, at least man lang yung mga kaedad natin, ma-change natin yung mind nila. And hopefully, pag it's our turn na, we will be able to make these reforms happen talaga. Kasi wala talagang hope ang Philippines kung hindi natin babaguhin ang dapat baguhin. Ganun lang kasimple yun. And by the way, there's such a thing as it will be too late. Kumbaga parang when you say it's too late, it just means that it will be so hard to make the changes happen. Na para bang ginawa mo na nga yung changes, pero yung effects ang bagal-bagal kasi nga sobrang dami ng tao, sobrang dami. Kunyari yung if we wait too long, 'di ba? If we wait too long, yung population ng Pilipinas sobrang ng laki na sobrang dami ng mga sobrang mahihirap na tao na sobrang daming pulubi, parang zombie na sila, 'di ba? Wala ka na magagawa. Hindi mo na ang hirap-hirap para ayusin yung sistema. 'Di ba? Parang ganoon. Yung bang parang imbis na 'di ba? Imbis na aayusin mo yung educational system para sa kanila, para gumanda. Sa kanila aayusin mo muna paano sila kakain, paano sila hindi magiging magnanakaw, para yung mga ganon. Kasi sobrang lala na ng problema by that time. Let's say another 20 years. Nako, wala talaga.
What's missing talaga, Ryan?
It has to happen now.
What's missing in government now are people like you, Ryan, who think in terms of, they can actually project the future. Na, you know what, this is what's happening, these are the changes. I actually just recently saw this movie, yung The Big Short. Napanood ko ulit kasi yung first time ko napanood, medyo I was in a different mindset. Now, after watching it again, have you seen it? The 2007 na Wall Street crash because of subprimes being yung mga CDOs na tinatawag nila na binibenta ng mga bangko, tapos yung kalokohan ng mga bangko totally, and basically the reason why the economy crashed for the entire world is because of the greed by all these bankers, no? Tapos meron mga ilang tao, a handful of people who saw this coming 5 years down the line. And I think that's what's missing with us, Orion. People who can foresee or who look at the numbers and say, you know what we're doing now, it doesn't make sense anymore. And we lack a certain type of people, even the ones who are in Congress right now or in the Senate, who are pragmatic enough na, look, if we keep on doing this, eventually we're gonna run out of something. Diba? May mauubos na kasi lahat marami sa kanila nagpapayaman lang dahil sa kanilang sa kanilang greed, dahil sila nagkakawtaw sila sa mga oligarchs. Eventually wala nang ma-exploit na resources ang Pilipinas dahil napunta na sa mga iilang tao, at sigurado pag iilan lang ang may hawak ng resources ng Pilipinas, maraming magugutom talaga. At pag maraming magugutom, and then our society will fail. And if we don't have enough people who will see that down the line, and can you imagine, Orion, one of the experts in that story ng The Big Short na nangyari sa stock exchange, one of them actually is now in focusing on water as a supply. Kasi he can see in the future that eventually water is gonna run out, potable water. So we need more people who can see in the future, who work in government, para makikita nila kung yung value the things that we need in terms of reform, and actual things that people will need if we were to improve, no? Yun ang, awan ko, yun lang ang take ko dyan. Kasi sabi ni Michael dito, Ringlolovic, lumalabas para maisulong ang konsti, kailangan magbago ang mga tao mismo. Patay na apo sa talampakan, di pa maisulong yan. Kasi, yes, we need to set up the system, but who's gonna start it, Orion? We need the people who are pragmatic enough to understand that we need to do this. So it has to start with the
Actually,
the electorate.
Kaya nga ang tingin ko nga paminsan one of the key changes that needs to be done in terms of our sa constitution, sa legislation also, in order to get really good people, dapat i-open natin yung public service to dual citizens. Kasi ang dami-daming mga magagaling na Pilipino na napuwersang maging immigrant sa labas, na maging, kumbaga, lumipat ng ibang bansa, di ba? So, paglipat nila sa Australia, paglipat nila sa Canada, sa US, kung saan-saan pa, naging, or even Singapore, yung iba, naging naging citizen sila ng ibang bansa, di ba? And by becoming citizens of these other countries, they were able to prosper. They were able to stay on. Kasi nga, the reason why people don't change their citizenship just because they want to become a different citizen. They just simply want to have the tawag nito,
security.
Yung security of tenure. Na kumbaga, kung kunyari, mag-close yung company na saan ka nagtatrabaho, pwede kang agad-agad makalipat sa ibang kumpanya. Di ba? Yun Kasi kung naka-work visa ka lang, usually, the moment natapos yung wala ka na sa trabaho dahil nag-close yung company, maghahanap ka ng bago. So you cannot stay in the US or you cannot stay in another country if you don't have citizenship, di ba? So ang nangyayari, people decide, Filipinos, even though they're patriotic and want to stay in the Philippines or remain Filipino citizens, they're forced to become citizens of other countries para lang sila makapag-stay dun sa kanilang mga trabaho and to live a comfortable life, di ba? But eventually, when they reach a certain age na yumaman na sila, gumanda na yung kanilang some of them, they want to help the Philippines. But they are no longer able to help the Philippines in government because of the residency requirements. Na you have to stay 10 years in the Philippines before you can run for president. Mga ganon. You have to stay for X number of years before you can run for whatever. Well, you cannot become a politician if you have another citizenship. That's the problem. So if we want to have more people na magagaling, Filipinos talaga na committed sa tawag nito, na umunlad ang Pilipinas, Pilipino pa rin naman itong mga taong to, na puwersa lang namang mag-change ng citizenship yan dahil sa realities Ngayon, kung gusto natin yung mga magagaling na taong yan mag-serve sa Philippines, remove those restrictions. Tanggalin. It was the fault of the Philippine Constitution why these people were forced to leave anyway. So, fucking change it na lang. You remove these restrictions, allow them as dual citizens to be able to serve, and you will have a large number of good people in Congress. In Congress, in politics, in the civil service, you will have a lot of people who are talagang may exposure to other systems, to systems that work. Nakita na nila yung ibang bansa kung paano gumana, alam na nila anong gagawin nila pagdating sa sa Pilipinas.
Right.
So, for example, I know this guy. He's actually a top civil servant in Australia. He's actually yung tatay niya was a commissioner. He was one of the delegates to the 1971 the group that wrote the 1973 Constitution. Okay, so magaling yung tatay niya, and then siya rin magaling din siya, pero nandun na siya sa Australia. Now this guy, he's now an Australian citizen, but still of course Filipino dual citizen and all that. Ang dami niyang alam about parliamentary system, federalism, the fiscal policy. Ang dami niyang alam. Yung knowledge niya na yan, pwedeng mapunta sa Pilipinas kung i-allow siya, despite his being a dual citizenship, a dual citizen. Despite having dual citizenship, if he's allowed to be able to provide his services to the Philippines as a consultant, or later on maybe even to run for office, a lot of really good things will happen because his knowledge and the knowledge of other people similar to him will come in really handy. So, that's what I think, na parang that's probably one of the starting points kung paano pagagandahin talagang Pilipinas. If you want good people, a lot of the good people have been forced to go abroad. They have many times they have the savings, so di na sila kailangan mangurakot kasi yumaman na sila dun sa ibang bansa, and they have the knowledge and the experience about how things should really work. Yang experience nila yan, walang makakatapat nun, 'di ba? Dahil yung foreign experience nila, yan talaga yung that's the addition, the value add nila eh. So yeah, we need to have people like that in the Philippines. So tanggalin natin yung mga restrictions.
May snowball effect yun eh. Pag tinanggal mo yung restrictions, obviously, yung pinaka-logical explanation dyan, mas dadami yung mga investors sa ating sa Pilipinas. Pag dumaming investors, mas mapipilitan ng mga, itong mga kumpanya to be more competitive. And they'll have to raise siyempre yung compensation, tataas. At yung quality ng tao na magtatrabaho dito tataas rin dahil maraming choices eh. So yun yung mga bagay talaga na kailangan ma-consider na yung effect, what will be the result of removing the 60-40 restrictions in our constitution. Orion, we're gonna take a short break and then we're gonna wrap things up for our Constipation Friday edition of Istoryang Futbolero, dahil meron nga tayong bagong advocacy dito sa Istoryang Futbolero, yung tinatawag na voter education. At para maging interesting ito, may ginawa tayong laro sa social media na tawag na Game of Giants. Please listen to this if this is your first time to find out about this. Check it out. Kilala ang iyong politiko. Nagagampanan ba niya ang kanyang tungkulin? Binoto mo ba siya dahil magaling siya o dahil kilala ang kanyang pangalan? Gusto mo ba siya dahil todo ang kanyang serbisyo o dahil todo bigay siya, kumanta at sumayaw sa entablado? Wala nang hihigit pa sa tamang kaalaman upang maiahon natin ang sarili sa kahirapan. Kapag sinuportahan mo ang tamang politiko, sigurado gaganda rin ang buhay mo. Dito papasok ang bagong online game na Game of Giants. Paraan ito na lumalim ang ating pagkakakilala sa ating mga public servant. Pataasan ng score. The more ang accomplishment, mas mataas ang ranking. Paano laruin? I-download ang mga polycard ng paborito mong politiko. Nakasulat sa polycard ang kanilang social media scores. Dito malalaman kung malakas ang hatak nila. Pero mas importante ay dito mo rin matutulungan ang kandidato mo sa pag-share ng kanilang accomplishments sa pamamagitan ng social media posts. The more factual information ang pinapakalat mo, mas malaki ang chance na tataas sa Game of Giants leaderboard ang kandidato mo. Simulan mag-post ngayon at itag ang blueprint.ph. Hashtag Game of Giants PH. The higher the engagement, the more chances to win. Get your polycards now by visiting blueprint.ph. Giant ba ang kandidato mo? Tara, laro tayo ng Game of Giants. Let's pick the right card, ha? The right people to serve us for a better Philippines. All right, there you have it. All you have to do is join Game of Giants dahil dyan mag-umpisa yung ating tinatry natin i-develop kasi Orion yung habit of researching on a candidate, no? Kasi medyo kulang yan eh. Medyo we depend too much on the personalities. The ability of the person to entertain us, na doon tayo nadadala tayo na sa yung ating allegiance for a particular candidate is based on like, because we like the person, hindi dahil sa kanyang abilidad. So if only people would actually, have due diligence in going about choosing their candidates, it starts with a game. All you have to do is download the polycard from blueprint.ph. Hanapin niyo yung pinakagusto niyong kandidato na sa tingin niyo na capable, competent, yung marami ng nagawa, marami ng accomplishment, tapos i-share po ninyo yung mga accomplishment alam ninyo at doon magsisimula. Sisibol yung responsible voting, no? Doon magsisimula talaga yung tinatawag na weighted voting, yung galing talaga sa logic yung ating pinagbasihan kung bakit natin sinusuportan isang kandidato. So yun, Game of Giants, blueprint.ph, download po natin yung polycards, tapos mag-start na po tayo mag-post about sa ating mga gustong tumakbo para sa 2022 kasi ultimately, itong mga pagbabago na gusto nating mangyari, itong reforma ay will also, part of it will depend on the people we vote for in 2022. We need champions to really push for the reforms that we want and to have the continuity that the current president has started already. We cannot go back. We cannot vote for people who don't want to change the Constitution because that is a very telling sign that this person doesn't want changes. Kontento na sila sa power base at saka din sa current situation because they're thriving in this type of system. Di ba, Orion?
Indeed. So yun, maybe I'll just make a little announcement again. So those who are just joining us now or didn't come in at the time when we started, I basically wanted to say to those who are based in Singapore, so meron po akong comedy show this coming 7th of, that's a Tuesday ba yun? Tuesday yata yun eh, diba? That's a Tuesday yata. Yep, Tuesday, the 7th of September. That is at 8 o'clock p.m. at the Esplanade Concert Hall here in Singapore. So yeah, stand-up comedy. So it's called the Expat Comedy Show. I'm one of the expats. Basically, it's non-Singaporeans based in Singapore. So there's me. There's an Indian guy named Deepak Chandran. There's a Russian guy named Artur Akhmetsyanov. There's also a friend of mine, Canadian, Liam McDonald, and then there's a Scottish guy named Matt Chalmers. So we're all performing on that night. So yun, September 7th, 8 o'clock p.m. Esplanade Concert Hall. So,
yeah. All right. Yeah. We're looking forward to that. Sana merong video footage of your performance next week. So, malapit na mag-September. Bantayan po natin si Jose Marichan. Lalabas na. Finally.
I didn't want to say hindi tayo nakapag-usap about yung sa kay yung kay Ugas at saka kay Matt, kay
Manny,
Pacquiao, no? Pero ako nabilib ako kay Ugas kasi si Ugas nagbaw siya parang nagbigay pugay siya kay Manny na parang syempre iniidolo niya rin yun di ba? Parang
naman.
So, I mean, I like the fact that he was so humble na kahit siya yung nanalo, gumanon siya kay Manny. So, I think he's a good guy and he's anti-communist, man. He's anti-communist.
Kahit na Cuban siya, no?
He's umalis siya, nag-eskapo siya ng Cuba. Ayaw niya yung komunismo. Galit siya kay Castro. Kaya nga yung kanyang sinasabi niya, Patria Ibida, gumagano siya. Homeland or fatherland and life. That is the anti-communist slogan. Because the communist slogan was Patria o muerte. Fatherland or death. Pero yung anti-communist slogan, yung kay Ugas, is Patria y vida, which is fatherland and life. That is the anti-communist na yan. Yun yung mga ayaw kay Castro. So, tapos si Ugas, marami siya sinasabi na galing akong communist, bulok ang komunismo talaga, kaya ako umalis dyan. Putang ina. Sabi niya, hinuli nga ako nila inimprison nga nila ako for a few months dahil sa gusto kong maging pro-boxer sana. Ganyan. Kasi, di ba pro-boxing ayaw ng mga communist yan kasi dapat ka lang, for free ka lang dapat, para sa, ba ganon. Para sa sosyedad lang, para sa lipunan lang.
Alam mo, dapat it should be a learning a teaching moment for everybody that lalong-lalo na yung mga masyadong na brainwash about communism. Lumang na po 'yun. Filosofiya at ideology ang communism. It's about time that we have original thinking na hindi tayo dapat mag-depend on the personalities of the past. Yeah, Karl Marx probably is a brilliant man for his time, but it's not applicable anymore today. I think it's about time that you use your brains. Dahil pa namang matatalino na sumasapi sa communist movement. Kung gamitin na lang sana nila yung talino nila na makapag-isip sila na mas mas timely at mas effective siguro na ideology, Orion, for the times. Siguro mas ma-appreciate pa natin, no, kaysa sunod-sunuran na lang sila dun sa tingin nilang
bulok talaga ng ideolohiya yan
mga intellectual demigods na kanilang sinasamba, kagaya ni Karl Marx. Hindi na po ubra talaga yan sa panahon na yan. So, Orion, one of the new segments natin sa bago tayo magtapos sa Istoryang Futbolero is our last song syndrome. At gusto ko sanang i-feature just a short part of this song, and mahilig kami ni Orion sa classics at bagay ito sa aming conversation ngayong gabi. Yun. Motulus, mga kaibigan, pag ito ay from a band called Shauna Dancing, at saka familiar siguro kayo dun sa singer na ngayon ay artista, napakasikat.
Comedian.
Kaboses mo siya, Orion, ha?
Ricky Gervais.
I thought it over and it was plain to see the
Good vibes, diba?
you once needed could just not come from me. And now it's over, both of us free, but I feel colder. Thousand tortured lives have fallen, wounded, dying, cut down by the questions that we sharpen just to save us.
Maraming di akalain si Ricky Gervais to.
We thought with nothing more to lose, we tear our hearts with jagged truths, and everything we'd clung to for so long just slipped away. And now it's over, both of us free, and I feel colder. And so we're moving to new beginnings.
Yan ha, Shauna Dancing po yan. More to
Tingnan mo
lose.
yung private chat natin. Meron akong cover ng kantang yan. May cover ako niyan.
Aba. Meron ba? Okay, sige, tingnan natin. Check nga natin yan, Orion.
Sinogram ng kaibigan ko, ako yung kumakanta. Pero hindi ko naman talaga kaboses yan.
Sige, patayin natin. Tingnan natin yung version ni Orion ng More to Lose. Tingnan natin.
We used to cry about the...
Ayun, oh.
Lakasan mo.
Yan. Sabi ko na nga ba eh. Kaboses ah!
Sa banyo ako nang nag-record.
Sa banyo ba yan?
Sa banyo. Ay, puto wala.
Napanak si Yam Benedict, oh. Sabi ko na nga ba, multi-talented ka, Orion, eh. Ha? Stand-up comic, singer, ano pa?
just slipped away.
Boses na pang parliamentary, sabi ni Yam Benedict.
And now
Mas British pa nga pakinggan
British.
Mas British pa si Orion kaysa kay Ricky Gervais.
I feel colder.
Ayan mga kaibigan, maraming salamat sa pakinig sa Istoryang Futbolero at yun pa ang ating last song, More to Lose, for our topic sa Constipation Friday about the party list system at ang ating political parties, the reforms that we need, no? At ang pagbabago ng konstitusyon, hindi po kami magsasawa. Napag-usapan niya ni Orion dahil sa tingin namin napaka-importante po yan para sa kinabukasan ng ating bansa. Talagang kung gusto niyo ng pagbabago, simulan po natin sa konstitusyon. Dahil lahat ay doon manggagaling. Lahat ng mga reforma ay magsisimula doon. Pati siyempre, kasama na rin ang tao doon. Kaya bumoto rin kayo ng tama sa 2022. Sumala rin kayo sa Game of Giants. At mag-download kayo ng polycard ng inyong paboritong kandidato at mag-share ng kanilang mga accomplishments. Yun lang, that's the least you can do to help others find out more about our candidates. So Ryan, maraming salamat. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your weekend. It's nice to see you again. Alam ko nag-grocery ka pa kanina kasama ang pamilya. At whatever it is that you're planned this weekend, I hope you have fun. At to our viewers, maraming salamat rin sa pagkinig sa Istoryang Futbolero. Huwag kalimutan, mag-mask, iwas, hugas, huwag magkalat ng fake news, at huwag matakot magpabakuna. Hindi pa tapos ang laban natin sa pandemya. At let's all pray for the day na lahat po tayo bumalik sa normal at makapiling natin mga minamahal sa buhay. At malagpasan natin itong COVID-19 na to at itong pandemya. Any last words, Ryan, before we go?
Wala. So yung mga nasa Singapore, don't forget, September 7, 8 p.m., Esplanade Concert Hall. So yun, September 7, that's Tuesday. The Expat Comedy Show. One of the performance there.
All right. Good night, guys. Good morning, good afternoon to our OFWs. Thank you so much for always viewing our program. Kayo yung mga bagong bayani, maraming salamat sa inyong sakripisyo. Kung hindi dahil sa inyo, ay siguro mas malala ang ating sitwasyon dito sa Pilipinas. Pero we are hoping for the day that things will be better so you can come back home and be with us here. So good night. Bye. See you guys soon. That's it.
All right.